Welcome everyone. Today, I'm joined by my very good friend, Dr. Beeko, to have him share his journey towards the USMLE. He's currently a first year resident, right?
Yeah.
Very soon he'll be a PGY too. I'm so proud of you, bro. Yeah, so this is a channel that is dedicated to helping IMGs, not only about USMLE journey, but to give as much information as we can provide to help you with your residency, because it can really get intimidating when you start, and we hope to share as much information as we can to help you hit the ground running when you start. So without wasting much time, I will start by asking you to give us a background and motivation of what inspired you to pursue a medical career in the United States, and how did you decide to take the USMLE?
That's a very good question. So I completed medical school in 2016, worked at Conformation for a year as a housemanship, and then I
House officer.
Yeah, house officer as a house officer. And then my second year house job at Conformation, and then I worked with a private facility for a bit, so got my posting with Strong Government Hospital, and I was there for like 4 years. But then again, what motivated me to start this journey was the fact that my colleagues had started it, and even though I heard about the USMLE in medical school, I thought it was a very, very daunting process, a very difficult exam. Everybody says it's very, very hard and it's impossible to do. The Ghanaian health care system too wasn't who I really wanted to be, and I was looking for a way out of the whole medical system there, better training, get exposed to like the best healthcare and all of that. Plus the money, that too was...
Well, I was asking myself why, stating the obvious. So the money obviously is a motivation for everyone, okay?
It was a real big motivation, because if you look at the Ghanaian healthcare system, they don't pay doctors as well, and that was also what drew my attention.
No, but one may argue that people are doing pretty well back then at home. The money isn't that bad. What do you say to that?
It depends on what they define as money is not bad.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so it's relative.
It depends on them, but I mean, if you really look into the figures, I'm not going to talk about the figures here, but if you look into the figures, you realize that the disparity is massive. The golfing classes is massive. So then again, I woke up one morning. My sister told me that one of her colleagues had matched into residency.
Okay.
You know her, Amia.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was when I was like engendered to write the exam, because
I mean, colleagues are doing it, and you could do it too. So okay.
It looked like I could do it.
All right. So what I'm hearing is, one, I'll state the money first. You are motivated by the money. It pays really well here in the United States, and you realize that colleagues are doing it, and you could also do it. So you are motivated by the money and friends. Okay. So that's the takeaway from the first question. Beeko is motivated, one, by the money, and then two, by colleagues.
Don't say too much about the money.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now the second question I have for you is, how did you prepare for the USMLE exams, and what resources or strategies were the most effective for you?
Oh, that is a good question. The very first thing I did was to reach out to someone who had already taken the exam, right? So that someone became my mentor. He actually guided me as to what to do, what to read, what to focus on. But in the beginning, it was very, very tough. So the materials I used were UWorld, Bots and Beyond, and then Divine Interventions.
Divine
Interventions was like the missing piece of the puzzle. That is what's actually got me going. The USMLE prep is very, very difficult. The USMLE exam is very, very difficult. The step one exam is like basic sciences exam, which really tests your basic science knowledge. And being someone who had been out of school for a very long time,
I can relate.
It was pretty tough. Getting to study anatomy and study the nerves and what they do, that was tough. But once you start studying and you build a habit and you get into a certain rhythm, it's all comes back to you. It's like clockwork. But it was tough. I remember thinking that I'd studied a certain topic in cardiology, and I was doing UWorld questions, and I was
our listeners may ask, what is UWorld?
Also, UWorld is like a question bank that gives you an idea how the exam is like, and it is it kind of trains you to anticipate what you can meet in the exam.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the questions are pretty long stem questions, and then you have to figure out a multiple choice question bank, that helps you figure.
Okay, all right.
How the exam is like.
So, in summary, you use a question bank, that is UWorld. You use Bots and Beyond. That's actually a video.
So they have videos. This guy, Dr. Ryan, who takes you through every single topic.
He's a legend.
Yeah, he's a legend. Takes you through every single topic, makes you understand it, breaks it down for you to understand it. And then Divine Interventions.
Almighty Divine Interventions.
He is the...
I still listen to Divine podcast anyway.
Yes,
He's a legend. Divine is a legend. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, he's my guy. I wish to meet Divine one day, actually.
He actually is really good. Yeah.
All right. Now, the third question for you, Dr. Beeko, is about overcoming challenges. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced during USMLE journey, and how did you overcome them?
The inertia. You see, you have this inertia to start preparing for the exam. The inertia. When you think about the whole process isn't just about writing the exam. It's getting documents ready, prepping your mind, prepping your finances.
Talking about finances, let me tell you a story. So, when I started the journey myself, I think the dollar rate to the CD was about 1:6 or 7. By the time I was done taking the step 2, you can imagine. Yeah. So I can easily relate with that one. So
the finances is a big problem because the exam is expensive. One exam costs about $1,200, right? And you have to take 3 of those exams. You have to do US clinical experience. You have to buy plane tickets, even applications is another big.
So your challenges are finances. It took a toll on you in terms of how much you have to spend. The CD to dollar rate wasn't very friendly too, so that's a big challenge I'm hearing. And also the fact that you have to take multiple exams. Step 1, step 2, and you took step 3. Fortunately for me, I didn't take step 2 before step 3 before eventually marching. So not everyone can get that lucky, and things are changing. So we actually recommend that you take all 3 steps before applying. So taking those 3 exams, and then because step 3 needs to be taken in the United States, you must make arrangements, book a plane ticket and
place to stay, all of that. And then also finding time to study when you have a very, very tough schedule. That was one of the biggest challenges I faced. I was working in a district hospital. We were pretty understaffed, and so having to work really long hours and then finding time after work to study was just a lot. And for this USMLE, usually people take it over 3-year, 2-year period, all 3 steps. But
you pulled, is it 1 year?
Yeah, 15 months.
You pulled a 15-month this time. I think you beat me to that. I took 16 months, so you are now the record holder. Congratulations.
But that too was very, very difficult. So those were the biggest challenges: finances, making time to study, taking 3 very different exams, very difficult exams.
I think you should add the English to it, right?
The OET, that
so is that difficult? Interestingly, it's so annoying. You need to. We've been colonized by the British. We studied in English, and you have to take an English proficiency exam to be able to, get a license. That's annoying. Was annoying. But so it was actually 4 exams, including the English test. I think you should add that to it. Because
that is true.
You paid for it. I think how much was that?
That's $500, I think.
I think it was about 680 Australian dollars, and if you convert it, it was around $500. And you have to go and book a hotel in Accra to write that exam. So
luckily for me, I was staying in Soham, so I would drive.
Okay, I didn't want to risk it, so I have to always get a hotel close to the place. I was so scared. I don't want to even be late a second. All right. Okay, so that's about overcoming challenges. Beeko has been able to bypass that inertia to be able to, get his rhythm going, and he made it.
It was tough.
Then the next question for you will be, I think you already alluded to it, but it's actually the next question for you. So balancing study with your life, and life in this case, I meant how you were able to, I knew you were performing all the surgeries at Soham at the time. How were you able to balance your studies with the busy schedule you have happened?
It took a lot of determination. And
you took leave?
No.
So you were working full time?
I was working full time and then studying. So let me just give you how a normal day looked like. So I'll go to work maybe at 7:30. I have to be on call, and then get off maybe like 2-3. But then I'm on call, and so every single opportunity I get to study, I do. I usually used to listen to divine podcasts during the surgeries, even while seeing patients, which I knew was wrong. But then again, I had to do that. But then after work, I would study between 6 to 2 a.m. every single day.
6 p.m. to 2 a.m.
And then wake up by 6 o'clock and go to work. So I had to do this every single day for, step 1, it took me 9 months to prep for step 1. So for 9 months for step 1.
Which I think is good, because what you don't want to do is, yes, now step 1 is pass and fail, but you want to have your foundation right. You never want to rush step 1 and start preparing for step 2, because if you have the strong foundation, step 2 becomes a roller coaster. So it's reasonable that you spend so much time.
And even to piggyback on what you just said, even in residency, you realize that your foundations really take you to certain levels. If you have a good step 1, step 2 foundation, even though you really don't know system-based stuff, you can actually you can reason behind all the things.
I agree.
come up with diagnosis and all of that, and it makes you stand out. So the step one foundation is the most important one, and you are not supposed to rush through. Take your time, understand the concepts.
Okay. Yeah. So to summarize it, you've been able to, squeeze your time out of the busy schedule.
Oh yeah, I forgot to add.
Yeah.
Well, you won't have a social life. For me, I did not have a social life for a long while because I couldn't afford to.
But looking back, do you think maybe you could have created a social life, maybe take some days off? Because what I was doing is, if I become extremely overwhelmed, I go on road trips during the weekends. And when you come back, you realize that you are so refreshed. But I only do that when I meet certain targets. So I will tell myself that if this week I'm able to solve 20% of UWorld question, I'll reward myself by going on a road trip. And that motivates you. But there are times that I'll cram things and not go through the explanation pretty well just because I want to go on that road trip. So yeah. So I think the next question will be, so you took your step 1, step 2, step 3, and then applied for the match. Tell me more about the match process. I want to hear insights about your experience with the residency match process and how you approach it strategically.
The match process is very daunting and it is not straightforward. So what I did was that right after step 2, I started reaching out to my senior colleagues in different programs. Not even right after step 1, I started making it known that I wanted to apply the following year, so I started reaching out to senior colleagues. And right after step 2, I actually intensified it. But then again, I also asked for advice from my senior colleagues who gave me good advice, told me where to apply to, how to apply, in such a way that I wouldn't waste money, right? Because so many things go into this match process and even filtering applicants for the interview selection process. So I wouldn't apply to a program which didn't have any Africans in them. I wouldn't apply to a program that would strictly pick people who have graduated more than 5 years.
Which was something that was against us because by the time I was applying, I've been out of medical school, I think, for 6 years, in your case 7 years. Yeah. And you may think that those rules don't apply until you've gone through the match process and realize that programs really pay attention to that.
They really
yeah. In a case or two, you may be lucky and you may not be filtered, but you want to put your money at where you think your chances are higher. If a program states on their website that they prefer candidates who have completed medical school within the past 5 years, 3 years, don't waste your money. That would be the advice that I would give from my own personal experience.
And from my personal experience too, even if the program calls you for an interview, and you are past that 5-year period, your chances are pretty slim. Unless, of course, you have really strong connections in the program. That's from my perspective. Mm-hmm. It's not a generalized thing. It could be different for you, but because it is real, it's a real thing. It's a very real thing. It's your graduation thing. It's a real thing.
So year of graduation is something that applicants should pay attention to.
And then your step 2 scores, very, very important. Right now I can see an increase in the score average.
The score average, yeah. The trend will keep going now because it used to be step 1 used to be the determinants. Everyone wants to pass and pass step 1 well, then it became pass and fail. So it's only reasonable that the only one that's
step 2 is step 2. Everybody
step 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So whilst you still need to prepare pretty well for the step 1 because that defines how strong your foundation will be and can help you have a good step 2 score, you don't want to rush and take the step 2 because if you have an average score or a low score in step 2, it will be pretty difficult, especially if you are not an American medical graduate. You really have a tough time getting in. Yeah. So take your time, be prepared before you sit for that step 2 exams. That's the takeaway message.
Wait, hang on. Between step 1 and step 2, which one was more difficult for you?
I think I think step 2 for some reason. No, let me backtrack. I think I was nervous when I was taking step 1. That would be it for me. But I could see the principles being tested. I was smiling while I was answering some of the questions because I knew what. Divine podcast once again prompted me or made me aware of some of the tricks that USMLE wants to play on candidates or the test takers. So I was pretty much aware of what was going on. But I was very nervous. I was overthinking and all that. I pretty much enjoyed the step 2 experience. I don't think, not to boast, but it wasn't an exam.
I think that mine was different. I felt that the step 2 was more difficult than the step 1 for me.
Okay.
Because I prepped for step 1 over 9 months. So I had a longer prep period. Step 2, I did over 4 months. Right?
I think you have this feeling, and the same thing happened when you are taking step 3. You think that you are not doing well, especially with step 3, until the results come in. You realize that you not fail this exam after all. There's that component in step 2 where you are not because they are not actually principles being tested. They are testing kind of some system-based stuff in the United States that you are not very familiar with when you hadn't been exposed to. the system. So you may not be pretty much confident in the answers you are picking. But step one, you know the principle being tested and you are confident in choosing the answers. But in my case, I was a bit nervous and I think that affected me in a way. But all in all, I think step two was a relatively easier one for me.
Don't listen to him. Step two is difficult.
Okay, all right. So different experiences, at least there's something to argue about. The next question I will have for you is, have you exhausted the match process experience? How about, I mean, you should tell me how you feel when you eventually saw that email and you matched, right?
Yeah, so I mean, the next difficult thing is waiting for interviews.
Oh.
Then you get this email, no reply email.
Yeah.
And then you get to just see.
You don't know whether you should send a letter to the program to express your interest or not. And actually, there is no straightforward answer to that. I mean, sometimes it's not as if the program director or the coordinator will read the email anyway. In a few cases, yes, they may read it, but it doesn't really change anything when you send those letters of interest whatsoever. But sometimes to satisfy your own curiosity and to make sure that, say, you have crossed all your T's, you want to throw in that letter and see what happens. But it doesn't really change much. Yeah, so waiting for interview, what else? Then the interview day.
I mean, you have to go through a lot of interview prep. There are some people who are just naturally eloquent, right? They flow, and interviews are just easy peasy for them. But for some of us, we have to actually go through a lot of interview prep. You need to know what to say, how to say it without sounding too overly confident or too humble. You know, it's a very delicate balance.
I think this is my general observation. We are a bit laid back as Ghanaians. Yeah. And I mean, there are things that you can actually speak about or talk to in terms of things that we have achieved after medical school, programs that we have embarked on, because we're organizing outreach services and all those stuff. Those are things that, I mean, an American graduate can really talk about and paint well, but you have it on your CV and you don't even know how to talk about. So in summary, we don't know how to sell ourselves as much, and that is something that I think IMGs need to work on, especially coming from a Ghanaian background.
And you know, Africans are taught not to boast.
Yeah,
you should boast.
No, but I think our Nigerian brothers
are better.
Yeah.
I mean, Ghanaians are very, very laid back. Yes, we are all very laid back. But I mean, in situations like this, you should really talk about yourself. It doesn't really. Don't think you are.
You're
boasting. Yeah. Just let go, because that's what they want. I mean, that is exactly what they do here. So just let go.
Flow.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Another thing, still dwelling on the match process because it's kind of a big one. So then you have the email that you have matched.
Oh my God. How do I feel that
the joy, the excitement? How was it like?
It's this unimaginable joy. It's unparalleled. Because when you sit back and you think about all the effort you put in, all the sleepless nights, all those anxious moments before the test results come out, everything.
By the way, he went to a studio and got a photo shoot. Do you have that picture?
Oh yeah, I do have a picture.
Yeah,
somewhere.
Maybe somewhere we'll show it to our.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, so in my case, you know my story, I didn't really have that excitement on the day of the match, because when the email came, it was, we are sorry you did not match. But hold on there, that is not the end. There is a soap process where, I mean, it's a supplementary process that you can look back and see, or the system allows you to see which programs are unfilled, and that is a second chance to actually apply or reapply and to those vacant positions and match. And that was my story. He clocked it on the first lesson.
Through his help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just to encourage you that even on the match day, all hope is not lost. You can go through the soap process and still match as it was in my case, or you can just hit it on the head at the first attempt and then match. And it's such an excitement when you eventually receive that email that you have matched.
Yeah, and I matched with my sister too.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
Congrats to her. How is she doing?
Oh, she's fine. She's freezing in Chicago.
Yeah, okay. All right. I think I'll move to the sixth question for you. I do know that you secured a clinical experience before the match process. So the question is, how did you gain clinical experience in the United States? Because it's becoming a big thing now. And what advice would you give to others seeking observership or externship? Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a very good one. So I was lucky. So I had a friend. I had an auntie who was a hospitalist in one of the hospitals here, and so was just able to hook me up, and she was really nice and helped me help my sister and I get an observership slot there, right? But even before then, we explored virtual rotations, tele rotations, right? With
how does that work?
So you sign up, you sign up for it, and then you kind of rotate via Zoom. It's virtual.
Okay.
Whilst the hospitalist is seeing patients. It's like you're watching Rush.
Oh,
Yeah.
that works.
And so you don't. It is not. It just like exposes you to the U.S. healthcare system, but it's not as good as being there in person.
And is it recognized by the programs?
I mean, having a rotation
Is better
is
than
better
nothing?
than
Okay,
right.
all right.
Yeah, so, but then again, so I had both.
And is it free?
No, it's pretty expensive. I mean, there are some that will charge about $1,800 for a month. That is very expensive. I mean, the U.S. medical experience thing is very expensive, especially where you have a lot of IMDs going, like the New York programs. There are other programs like Brooklyn USCE, which also does these other rotations and also do the on-site rotations, but they're all pretty expensive, between $1,500 to $2,000 for a month.
So you started with a virtual, and then eventually you were fortunate to
do the observership, but mine was free.
Okay,
yeah,
the observership was free. Okay, I mean, you see, so it explains why on the first listening attempt you hit it right there. I was more fortunate to get the US clinical experience, and obviously I didn't take the step 3 before applying, which is something I would not recommend for anyone.
Yeah, I agree.
US clinical experience is very important. The step 3 is very important, and you may not be fortunate as I was to eventually match. So prepare for the step 3, prepare for the US clinical experience, even if it will be virtual, like Beeko rightly said. You should at least try something so that they know you are committed to having that experience or having that virtual observership. The next question for you, Beeko, will be letters of recommendation. I don't want to even go back into time and think of the struggle of getting a letter of recommendation.
It's a big struggle.
What are the strategies you use to obtain or finally obtain the letter of recommendation from our consultant back at home?
Wait. For me, I got my letters of recommendations from here. Right?
Oh,
so
lucky you.
Yeah, so after my observership.
So you got all 3 from here?
I got 2 from here, actually.
And then one.
And I got one back home. So I got a letter of recommendation from Dr. Richard Phillips.
Yes, so I think this is the time to use the opportunity to thank Dr. Phillips.
Yeah, he's
now Prof. Phillips.
Oh, sorry, Prof. Phillips.
Prof. Phillips for the good work he's been doing. He's
Yeah.
written letter of recommendation for quite a number of us, and he's very dedicated and committed to writing it for you when you reach out to him, and I think that's worthy of commendation. I think I got one from one of our specialists. I mean, back at where I did my second year house job, I got one from Prof. Tabo, who is now I think the provost of UMass, and then I think those were the 3 letters of recommendation I got.
Prof. Harry Tabo, right?
Yeah,
so
he was into public health. Yeah,
yes.
but I still got it anyway because I mean it's just difficult to get letters of recommendation. So what I would encourage prospective applicants to consider is whilst you begin to think of this journey, start reaching out to the professors, the consultants back at where you trained, or people you work with who can put in a good word for you. They should be people who really are committed to writing about you, people who know you, and not because the programs are not interested in reading generic letters of recommendation. There should be something unique about you that should be captured in that letter of recommendation, and that's very important. And they are so busy, so you need to reach out to them
very early.
You need to keep reminding them in a very nice and gentle way. Yeah, you shouldn't come across as though you are
like you're forcing them to do it or pushing them to do it.
Yeah, I mean, so that can be a challenging one, and you should start acting on time. Then another important question I want to ask you is regarding network and connections. How important do you think networking?
100% important.
Allow me to know. How important was networking during your journey, and what tips do you have for building connection in the United States or in the US medical community?
Brother,
we are in US. Connection doesn't work, right?
What? What? Look, connections, 100%.
Well, let me correct you. Here they call it networking.
Networking, sorry.
Okay,
yeah,
so
networking.
Right.
It's 100%. I could say 95% of my interviews were through networking.
Yeah,
that's the word to use, right? Networking.
That is the word. So
and you need to network. You really need to reach out to people, and don't be afraid to put it out there that you're writing the steps. You know, the more you put it out, the more people see you, and the more people are willing to help you. You shouldn't isolate yourself and then hide it from people. I mean, that's what also people tend to do.
I think that's a very big mistake.
That's a huge.
A lot of people do. They don't want people to know that they are taking the steps. For some reason, I don't know why you want to do that, but it's something I've observed, and it's not the very best of decision.
Because you can't match by yourself. You need people to put in good words for you, because it works actually. For example, if you are way beyond the year of graduation filter, you need someone to put in a word first. So they pick up your application and take a look at it. You understand? So you need to network. You need to know people, find people, do everything you can to find people. So what I did was that, luckily for me, I had friends in programs already. I mean, I was very lucky. I had him, I had others in different programs. So I just reached out to them. And the thing is, you also have to put yourself in a position where people can actually vouch for you. And how to do that is by impressing on with your scores, because people wouldn't want to vouch for people who don't have really good scores.
Yeah, because I mean, look at it this way: the only thing, or the only obvious thing that a PD, a program director, can tell about your commitment to this journey, start with your scores. Yeah. Any other thing that I would say by means of recommending you, it's word of mouth, right? It could be that I'm lying, so good scores goes a long way.
Really matter. Yeah. So, then again, you can reach out to your friends on LinkedIn. There are quite a number of, it will surprise you that there were people that I didn't know were hospitalists here in the United States who were from tech. Do you remember this? There's this Nigerian who was a senior. I did not know she was here. So it was through LinkedIn that I actually found her. So you can find your...
LinkedIn was very resourceful. What I did was that sometimes if you search the programs on LinkedIn, the Ghanaians in that program will pop up, and then I'll start sending them a message. Sometimes you need to be on the subscription to be able to send messages to people. But if you are going to get that 1 month subscription so as to be able to reach the people, I think you need to do it. So LinkedIn was very helpful. And then
what else do you use?
So the WhatsApp groups that exist.
The IMG research groups.
Yeah, so we'll be leaving a link down in the section where you can reach out and be added to the various WhatsApp platforms that you can join. It's been very resourceful. I remember Dr. Dapa has been very resourceful to me. He helped me with interview processes. He encouraged me when on the day of March I did not match, pushed me to go through the SOAP process. So people are very resourceful, and eventually it's through that group. I mean, one thing led to another, and I eventually got to match. So those groups are very important. If you sit in your room and think that you can even get 280 and you wouldn't match.
Oh yeah,
so
very true.
While scores are important, you need networking and people to vouch for you. That is what I will say. Now let's jump to the 9th question, which, I mean, we'll have a whole session on your experience with residency so far, but I want to quickly touch on that part and ask you how you were able to adapt to residency life. So the question is, how did you adjust to the demands of residency, and what lesson from your USMLE preparation helped you succeed? So kind of the dedication that you employed during USMLE process, was it helpful at all in residency in helping you adjust? So don't talk too much about the residency life because we'll have a whole session on it, but adaptation, how are you able to adapt?
I mean, I'll start by saying that residency is a very tough, very demanding process, and I think that that process I went through, working long hours during the USMLE prep and then coming back home to study and all of that preparation actually helped me, or is helping me with residency, because it's almost the same thing. You're working really long hours. You still have to come back, find time to read a bit before your day starts. And so that resilience I built during the USMLE prep is what's actually helping me at this point. Because without that resilience, you really can't go through the first 6 months of intern year.
So resilience came in handy. Okay.
Yeah.
And the final question for today, Dr. Beeko, will be advice for aspiring physicians who want to or who are planning to take the steps and start their residency in the US. What is that one piece of advice you wish someone had given you before starting your journey, and what would you say to those currently pursuing the same path?
Don't hold back. If once you think about it, do it. It is not easy, but it's doable. And once you set your mind on it, once you really want it, nothing will stop you from getting it. You just have to be dedicated, and that is all about dedicated. You need to be able to network, and you need to be able to put your finances straight. With these 3 things, nothing can stop you.
All right, I agree with all those points. Don't hold back, because time is running, and like we said, if you complete school 3 years ago and you want to spend 2 years to think about whether you need to take the step or not, you realize that soon you become, a STEM and old applicant.
Yeah.
So do not hold back. Once you think about it, go for it. Dr. Beeko's last words. And that will mark the end of today's episode. We intend to bring you more of this interactions and guidance towards your USMLE journey and subsequent residency in the United States. It's been a pleasure talking to my very good friend. And is it future hospitalist or future cardiologist? We'll talk about that later. And thank you, our listeners. Kindly subscribe to our channel, and see you soon in the next video.